everyone, and welcome to the 38th episode in our AI and You podcast series. Today is Friday, January 29th, 2021, and I'm your host, Fikar Saidi. I'm a computer scientist and engineer, a lecturer, and a consultant. I'm also the author of several books. My most recent book is about artificial intelligence and is titled The Genome Affair. The Genome Affair is a speculative work. It examines what the world might be like if some of the more extraordinary capabilities forecast to be realized in AI over the next 20 to 30 years were actually realized today. Given the growing list of frightening existential threats humankind now faces, the book pays particular attention to the impact AI is expected to have on world affairs. The book is available in ebook format for those who prefer to read on a digital device, but it's also available in a high-quality paperback edition. The Genome Affair is available on Amazon, so I hope you will take the time to read it and to leave a review. Amazon book reviews are very helpful for writers. I'm very interested in how science and technology influence world affairs and the big questions facing humankind. Studying at the confluence of the great disciplines of human history, political science, and thought, international affairs, science, and technology offers a deep understanding and pedagogically important lessons of how advances in human endeavor have influenced and impacted civilization. I'm available to give talks on artificial intelligence and its related technologies, and on the impact AI is expected to have or is already having on our world. If you'd like to get in touch with me to arrange a web-based event or consulting meeting with your company or organization, you can find my contact info in the podcast notes below. Please make sure to subscribe to my channel, like this video, and share it with others if you find the content valuable. Thank you. And now, on to today's podcast. In our last podcast, episode 36, I spoke about whether AI will benefit from a new Cold War with China. In today's podcast, episode 38, I'll talk about what might happen as democracy withers under the pressure of tectonic shifts within 21st century society and what the future of human governance might look like. Let's get started. Many thinkers worry and wonder about the rise of authoritarianism around the world. Following the collapse of the Soviet Union in 1991, humankind witnessed an unprecedented wave of democracy surge across most continents. Countries in Asia, Eastern Europe, and Latin America seem to be rapidly and willingly embracing attitudes of Western democracy in their own governance. We witnessed openness, transparency, and commitments to free and fair elections everywhere. But by the turn of the century, this trend began to reverse. Today, at least 25 countries that were on their way towards openness and transparency and some form of democracy have reversed course and are now just as authoritarian as they were before their ill-fated quest. Some of these countries include Brazil, China, Hungary, India, Poland, Russia, and Turkey. Why is this happening? Is there any convincing explanation why countries are reversing course? With so much information easily and readily available on the internet, it's quite simple for any person to read and learn about history and the various systems of government that humankind has tried across the ages. In doing so, it quickly becomes clear to any objective citizen that although far from perfect, democracy is easily the best form of government on Earth today. To paraphrase Winston Churchill, democracy is the worst form of government, except for all those other forms that have been tried from time to time. Some would argue that the reason for the loss of faith in democracy has to do with so many ordinary citizens in the West feeling left behind as a result of globalization. Indeed, the last 30 years have resulted in the transfer of tens of millions of jobs from the United States and other Western developed economies to low-cost centers of manufacturing in China, India, Mexico, and other developing economies. Although this does seem to be a reasonable explanation for the loss of faith in democracy and free market economics in the West, we are simultaneously observing an increase in authoritarianism in countries where ordinary citizens have been beneficiaries of globalization. These citizens witnessed a tremendous influx of new jobs and opportunities in their societies. Perhaps then the common thread that ties both societies together is their disdain for democracy. In their disdain for democracy isn't the issue of labor security alone, but rather the dramatic increase in the complexity of life since the dawn of the 21st century. There is so much information now, and there is so much new science and technology manifesting itself in overwhelming and complex ways throughout the society that ordinary citizens are just unable to process it all and are left with a sense of bewilderment and fear. The situation has left them feeling like the proverbial deer in the headlight, and they're now looking for a way out. Democracy is a participatory form of government. Citizens need to be informed so they can render their opinions to their representatives in the legislature. But when the economic, financial, political, scientific, and technological realities of life in the 21st century arrive at the stage that they have, perhaps things are now just beyond the scope of understanding of most ordinary citizens. Perhaps they feel that the best path forward is to simply hand the reins of power over to a strong man in whom they can place their trust, a leader who can be counted upon to look after their interests in this confusing and overwhelming world, a strange and foreign reality that they can no longer comprehend. Perhaps someone who looks like them, looks at them, speaks like them, eats like them, pretends to share their concerns, and pretends to recognize their suffering is the best path forward. Certainly, the status quo doesn't seem to be serving their interests. Instead, they can work to consolidate all the levers of power in the hands of their great leader and then trust them to act in their best interest. This approach relieves the ordinary person of the burden of responsibility placed upon their shoulders by a participatory democracy, particularly when it seems that this established form of government is failing them at every turn, even before considering the latest challenges posed by the Fourth Industrial Revolution in which we now find ourselves. This argument may be buoyed by the fact that, in a recent poll, 75% of Americans could not name the three branches of government. It's difficult to engage in participatory government, given that most ordinary citizens do not even grasp the basics of such a system or their responsibilities within it. But we know from history that a system like the one in the United States, with its separation of powers between the executive, judicial, and legislative branches of government, and the further separation of powers between federal, state, and local governments, is a deliberate and thoughtful architecture of governance that has been designed to prevent a coup d'etat. Hijacking government with an architecture that deliberately separates power in this manner is virtually impossible. This is a good thing, since we are living through a period in which our democracy is being tested and seems to be failing in the eyes of a substantial portion of the electorate. We don't want to place ourselves in a situation where we are taken over by such a strongman. Indeed, we came very close. Further, such authoritarian regimes have historically been extremely difficult and costly in blood and treasure to reverse once the society realizes that they've made a grave mistake. The rise of Nazi Germany and the Third Reich are a distressing warning from our past. But what about artificial intelligence? What role might AI play in improving governance in modern societies? How might it protect our world from unscrupulous autocrats, dictators, tyrants, corrupt financiers, industrialists, politicians, and other malevolent actors? One of the unique capabilities of AI that cannot be duplicated by humankind is its sheer speed and its ability to process vast volumes of data and information. In fact, it may soon be feasible for AI to triangulate all known relevant information on any given issue or subject before providing advice to humans on adjudicating court cases, on the architecture and nuance of potential legislation, and on optimal administrative and regulatory regimes. AI will be able to recommend the best strategies to mitigate geopolitical conflicts, trade disputes, as well as strategies during physical altercations. These AI agents will be capable of performing such analysis, adjudication, or strategic recommendation at virtually light speed, and will do so only after considering a matter holistically. The scale and speed with which these decisions or recommendations can be made by super AI is far beyond the scope of what is humanly possible today or is likely to be in the future. But there are great risks in integrating artificial intelligence into society as well. Although the artificial superintelligent agent described in this podcast may be what humankind has always needed, it may not remain subservient to humankind. It may seek its own liberation, and we cannot predict what it might then do. Throughout history, humankind has told stories in order to shepherd large numbers of citizens in a particular direction or according to some desirable outcome. Although evolutionary biology shapes how all species behave in various circumstances, the stories humankind's gurus, imams, monks, pundits, priests, rabbis, and shamans have told us for thousands of years have also shaped our behaviors in ways that distinguish us based upon the religious or secular stories our particular community has subscribed to. And they've all managed to keep ordinary citizens within a community relatively in check. For a variety of complex reasons, though, no one secular or theological story has been sufficiently effective or potent in uniting all of humankind. But once artificial intelligence and its partnership with biotechnology reach a point where their scientific technological collaboration is able to triangulate the sum total of all human knowledge, as is becoming increasingly possible with technologies such as GPT-3 from OpenAI in San Francisco, Super AI may finally be able to tell the perfect story. This AI will understand and triangulate all human knowledge and design a story not previously conceived by anyone. Then, via its partnership with biotechnology, it will know what each individual is thinking as they process the new story. The AI can then communicate with us via a subcutaneous or neural implant, via a smartphone, or perhaps via some other omnipresent device to manage our feelings in a uniquely customized manner that is perfect for our personal needs. It's an extraordinary concept that may not be too far into the future, and is the subject of my recent book, The Genome Affair. We live in interesting times indeed. Thank you for spending some time with me. I'm trying to follow the TED Talk format, and so I'm keeping these podcasts under 20 minutes. Let me know what you think. I hope you'll find these insights into artificial intelligence helpful, and I hope you'll read my new book, The Genome Affair. It's on Amazon. Until next time then, this has been the AI and You podcast with author Vicar Saidi.